Now, here's another site that it's very hard to forget, and it certainly isn't a traditional woodblock print subject, and that is the oil tanks, oil storage tanks. I find this striking. It's one of the Koizumi images that I can never get out of my mind. It really makes an impression. It must have made an impression back in those days too.
Well, it did. My eye looks at this and sees Eastern European, Russian kinds of painting and drawing of that period all over this. This is scenes of modern industrialism. In fact, Koizumi in his annotations said that the Japanese public reaction to this was that he'd gone a little to the left, that he was hanging out too much with Russian images, and that it indicated he might have been communist or socialist.
Says the work was well received and its left-wing style was a source of comment.
Comment, yeah, yeah.
And specifically socialist realism.
Socialist realism. But transcending what historical meaning this might have in relation to political movements, it's a real study in forms, and that's what I think makes it striking. Color fields and forms. Yes, he's talking about a modern Japan, a Japan that runs on imported fuels. There's all of that, but to me it's just a powerfully strong image. And for the aficionado of Japanese prints, at the top of the print, there's a little bluish haze or line on the skyline, and that he's made this print himself, but that ability to do a wash at the top called bokashi, which all the great masters used in the Edo period, he's making a nod to this.
What a wonderful touch.
Yeah.
And it's worth keeping in mind that whether people were attracted to left-wing politics or communism, it was also a period where culturally, whether it's socialist realism or something even more vague, the left was cool to an increasing segment of younger Japanese. This was a period where proletarian literature movement, proletarian art, music movement were gaining speed among a certain small subset of Tokyoites. And I think it's in the air. It's what people perceive and what clearly Koizumi perceived too.
What was the relationship of the left to the militarism?
Well, it's complicated, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, the military and the state, for that matter, not just the military, cracked down on the Communist Party officially. But there were a very active leftist movement, including not just political parties, but also labor unions, which was technically not legally protected, but was still gaining membership and energy during the course of the 1930s. And so there was a real concern on the part of the state about leftists. At the same time, you can tell in the writings and manifestos of some of the most radical military officers, young, middle, especially in the middle-ranking officer corps, who are clearly inspired by socialist Marxist rhetoric and envision even a revolutionary change against the capitalist status quo. So the relationship between the military and the political left is one that is a lot more complicated than simply the military cracking down on or going against leftists in general.